Manafort is getting hammered by the special counsel again. They released the report today saying he brazenly violated the law both outside of prison and inside of it. What is your reaction tonight to this new sentencing memo?
Well, when we receive the special counsel's report, I think it's very appropriate to evaluate it in context of how it was prepared and who prepared it. You'll remember that the Obama-appointed Democrat Inspector General said that all of the major HR policies had been violated at the FBI and Department of Justice when you saw people move from the Hillary Clinton investigation on to the Robert Mueller investigation. I think it's also important to note that when Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were texting one another about whether or not it would be a wise career move for Strzok to go and work for Bob Mueller, they said there was no there. There was no evidence at all after 10 months of investigating of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. And now we see, I think, a special counsel's team that includes a lot of people who were supportive of the Hillary Clinton campaign, who have supported Democrat candidates in the past. And as we look at the findings, we know that this is the result of tens of millions of dollars in taxpayer money that's been spent. But I believe it will take a very negative and unfair view of the president.
We're certainly waiting on that report, and we know now that it won't be released next week when the president is overseas. But I want to just point out that the sentencing memo talks about Paul Manafort violating a garden variety of crimes such as tax fraud, money laundering, obstruction of justice, and bank fraud. But there's nothing in here that talks about them worried about any kind of collusion, just as the indictment showed before he went through a trial.
You're absolutely right. And these elements with Paul Manafort largely arise either before Donald Trump ever contemplated running for president or so far after Paul Manafort's departure from the campaign that they couldn't be tied to the campaign. But you see these themes with Manafort play out with other characters throughout this entire saga, whether it be Roger Stone or George Papadopoulos. The process crimes are largely what drives the special counsel's activity rather than being able to demonstrate any Americans who were conspiring with Russians and the Trump campaign in order to impact the outcome of the election or to steal emails from Hillary Clinton and her team. So I think that you largely see the special counsel trying to investigate people like Manafort, like Stone, rather than actual crimes like collusion and obstruction of justice.
So speaking of investigations, your colleague, Congressman Adam Schiff, who is in charge now of the House Oversight Committee, was on Bill Maher last night, and I wanted you to take a listen to what he said, and I'll get your reaction.
People will stop me in the corridor, Republicans, and say, keep doing what you're doing.
Really?
You know, even senior Republicans, which of course would be heresy for them to say publicly, I don't need private confidences, misgivings anymore. We need public statements. We need people to take a stand. We need people to vote their conscience.
Congressman, are Republicans secretly meeting with Adam Schiff in the corners and halls of Capitol Hill to talk about how much they hate President Trump?
Well, there frankly are too many Republicans that I think haven't been vocal enough in support of our president. And I actually believe, Adam Schiff, that there probably are some Republicans who have talked to him and who have indicated that secretly they want a downfall of President Trump. But that's why I love our president so much. He's a disruptive force in Washington for the Republicans and Democrats who in large part work together in an establishment coalition to keep everything the same in this country. But the forgotten men and women of America wanted to see things done differently. That's why they elected Donald Trump. And now you see the establishment of both parties fighting back and allowing these abuses at the FBI and Department of Justice to bias an investigation that never will be able to prove collusion because it didn't happen.
So staying on Capitol Hill, we want to switch gears here a little bit. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is rounding up Democrats to vote for a resolution against President Trump's national emergency. Some Republicans have said they are going to break ranks and vote with them to condemn the national emergency. But my question for you is, does this resolution actually take any power back from the executive, and does it do anything to actually solve the problem of illegal immigration?
Well, this would be what we would call a show vote in Washington. It's a vote that won't result in any change to law or policy, but it allows Nancy Pelosi to virtue signal to the radical left about their open borders, abolish ICE agenda. I would be very disappointed to see Republicans break rank, but at the same time, I mean, we have to acknowledge that this is an emergency. We just seized enough fentanyl at the border to kill 115 million Americans. That's more than a third of our country, and that's that's just what we caught, Katie. There are enough drugs and gangs and violent people crossing our border to do great harm to the families in the United States of America, and that's why this is an emergency. It's why the president has taken appropriate action, and nothing about this vote will do anything other than signal to the far left of the Democratic base that Democrats still believe in open borders.
Does Congress have any plans, you're there, you're talking to your colleagues, about doing something real on illegal immigration? We saw the funding bill, which actually fuels this problem of the crisis of unaccompanied minors and family units and human trafficking at the border. But we see the resolution condemning the president's emergency declaration. Are there really any plans over the next 2 years to tackle this issue from a strictly illegal immigration perspective, not tied to a funding bill?
Well, that is the question that all Americans are asking, Katie. They want to know, after all of this dust-up, are there going to be some common-sense solutions where both parties come together, maybe make a little compromise, and design an immigration system that works for the American economy and the American people? Now, I thought Senator Lindsey Graham was really working hard to do that. He was trying to build a piece of legislation that would have secured our border, built the wall, dealt with the dreamers in a way that was humane but that did not invite more illegal immigration, and then even take a look at those citizens in our country who are here from temporary protected status, people who escaped war or natural disaster, and to find a way for those folks to stay in our country if they follow the laws and if they act legally and properly. And so I think that there were people working on those things, but the barrier to the common sense reforms that most Americans would support is this, really, I think, is this view on the left that we have to abolish ICE. Beto O'Rourke saying we have to tear down walls. That's the type of thing that really frustrates common sense progress.
Congressman, real quickly before we have to move on and let you go, you brought to the attention of the American people recently something that House Democrats in the Oversight Committee actually voted against in terms of notifying ICE when illegal immigrants or illegal aliens attempt to purchase guns at American gun stores. Can you quickly explain what that was about?
Yeah, Democrats wanted to expand background checks, and we were working on the elements of that legislation that we liked and didn't. And we simply thought that if an illegal alien goes to buy a gun in this country, that we should notify ICE if the background check shows that. And every single Democrat on the Judiciary Committee voted against notifying ICE when an illegal alien wants to buy a gun to potentially do harm in our country. So it shows that, like, they hate ICE so much on the radical left that they wouldn't even notify ICE if an illegal alien would potentially commit a mass act of gun violence.
That's pretty amazing. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. We appreciate it. Congressman Matt Gaetz, thanks so much.